So the question of after the last judgment is presented in the 25th chapter of Matthew's Gospel about the parable of the sheep and the goats. And I want to take a slightly different look at just one aspect of that parable. I think it was a big shock when people had heard it the first time, because it would have been told to the Jewish people. Matthew's written with the Jewish people in mind. And the Jewish people always saw themselves as a sheep. That's the point in when Ezekiel's talking about shepherds and sheep. There may be fat sheep who are kind of living off the weather-beaten thin sheep, but everyone's a sheep. You're a sheep just by being Jewish. What could possibly make you not part of a sheep? What could be? And I think Jesus is trying to reconfigure that in that what your heart is like. But what I want to draw on just today, a very short thing about the ignorance people have. They don't know. So in the parable of the sheep and the goats, Jesus said, but when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was naked, you clothed me. And the good people, the people who are regarded as sheep, said, well, Lord, when was this? I don't remember doing this. They're speaking to a king. And he said, well, when you did it to the least of my brothers, you did it to me. And similarly, that's the case of the goats. He says, well, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was thirsty, you didn't give me anything to drink. And similarly, they don't know when it happened. And he said, well, it's when you didn't do it to the least of my brothers. You didn't do it to me. And this is, I think, deeply true, that we are to some extent ignorant of our own nature. What do I mean by that? Well, here's an example from the parish, which I'll anonymise. I just found out, it was last week, that there's a member of the parish who's very, very, very elderly and unable to leave her house. So she used to come to church a lot. And I have visited her, and I do visit her, but really not as often as I should do. And I found out another person who's old but significantly younger than her. But I found that she's been visiting her every week for an hour, every single week for the last 2 years. And I just thought, gosh, that's brilliant, because there I was worrying. And I still should visit the person who's in her house. But one of the other members of the congregation has quietly been visiting her. And then I expressed something which may or may not have been a mistake. I said, that's a beautiful example of Christian ministry there. You know, just going out to reach to someone who's otherwise kind of could be ignored because they're at home all the time, very frail. And she said, but I'm not doing anything good. I'm just visiting my friend. And from the outside, maybe it's obvious that she's doing something very, very good. But to her, she is just visiting her friend. And it reminded me of this bit of the parable when it said, you know, the really good people, they don't remember when did I see you hungry? When did I see you thirsty? Well, they just do it. It was a kind of reflection of the goodness of her heart. And some people are like that. And I think we can get lost in the kind of glamour of trying to build a space rocket or cure cancer or go to the moon or break the 100 meters world record. And we miss quiet goodness. And it's beautifully expressed at the end of George Eliot's novel Middelemarch. And this is a very famous passage, but I think it bears repeating. Her full nature, like that of the river Cyrus, broke the strength, spent itself in channels which had no great name on the earth. But the effect of her being on those around her was incalculably diffusive. For the growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts. And that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been, is half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life and rest in unvisited tombs. For the growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, and that things are not so ill with you or me as they might have been, is half owing to the number who live faithfully a hidden life and rest in unvisited tombs. And if you think about it, part of the power of that parable of sheep and goats is, I think is Jesus expressing the virtue of the people who go unnoticed, do good things unnoticed, and don't even notice about it themselves. But my goodness, they're the people who are already living in the kingdom of God and have got it right.